And NPC Limited says it welcomes House of Representatives investigation into alleged payment to ghost consultants. Oil studies as tighter supply balances growth concerns. Asia markets trade mostly higher as investors come back from long weekend. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Well, it's a pleasure to have you join us. Happy Easter. Let's begin the program with energy. Oil steadied on Monday after rising for 3 straight weeks as looming supply cuts from Saudi Arabia and other OPEC Plus producers balance concern about weakening global growth that may deepen fuel demand. Crude last week jumped more than 6%, a third weekly gain after OPEC Plus, the organization of the petroleum exporting countries, OPEC and allies, including Russia, surprised the market with a new round of production cuts starting in May. Brent crude was flat to $85.12 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 10 cents to $80.80. Now to the focus of the day. Nigerians are currently counting down to the June 2023 projected date for subsidy removal as they call for palliatives to ameliorate the impact of the halt in subsidy is gaining momentum. We have in the studio an energy expert, Olabode Somi, to discuss issues around preparations for the subsidy removal and other reforms in the energy sector. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Okay, the month of June, which is slated for removal of fuel subsidy, is not far from now. Monies for palliatives have started coming in. How prepared are we for this?
I think, first of all, for Nigerians, while we speak about the subsidy and all that, it's good to understand some of the fundamentals. Okay. Subsidy as an economic principle is basic. It's something that exists everywhere in the world. There are wheat subsidies in the US, there are meat subsidies in Europe. China has export subsidies, which is why a lot of its products are cheap. However, it is possible for everything that is proper to be dysfunctional. So in the case of Nigeria, where there were subsidies for petrol, we have found out that it is dysfunctional to the Nigerian economy to the extent that the subsidy itself is having the exact opposite of what it should have. And that is at the origin of why every economic expert who has studied the Nigerian situation is recommending the removal. So on the strength of that, any government who is going to remove it, given the capacity for the removal to cause significant inflation, needs to have a strategic, systematic, and consistent method of communicating with the people, particularly those at the grassroots, for them to understand the need for the removal. The second part of it is that the data, the very statistics on which the subsidy removal are being premised on, need to be made public, they need to be made available, they need to be made verifiable, and they need for people to consistently interrogate it. That way, people will feel to be a part of the system of removal. It is the feeling of being a part of the removal process that makes us ready for it. Because as they said, people who are knowledgeable are difficult to drive but easy to lead. So the issue is about getting people to be knowledgeable enough about the fundamentals of the petroleum subsidy.
Well, you talked about transparency, but what worries me is the amount now. We are talking about the amount and how these palliatives will reach everyone. Well, there are also projections that petrol may sell for about 750 naira per litre if the federal government removes subsidy by June this year. Does that make any sense? Considering cost of living crisis, already we have cost of living everywhere.
So it's a chicken and egg situation. So it's always a case of which comes first. And the truth is that there are no easy solutions. But there is the right solution. I mean, there are things we could do, and that we will keep at this, and in the next 20 years we'll still be keeping at this. But there are things we could also do that will cause things to spike, but in the next 5 to 6 years, things will change. The difference, like I said, this is now about leadership, about governance, and about the politics of economics, because all economics have have political implications, and all politics have economic implications. So there is a political aspect to the subsidy removal. When you look at the technical aspect, that's the fundamentals and the economics. Those ones, the data needs to be made available, they need to be made verifiable, and they need to be presented to the public. But the politics of it is how it affects inflation and the ability of any nation to govern. Given the circumstances, there is a need to communicate and integrate and ensure that people know what it really is. It's not so much about palliatives per se. It is about people understanding and feeling that they are a part of whatever it is that is the removal of subsidy. Because without that, it becomes a trust and no trust situation. Government does this, there's a little change, there are some economic changes which they didn't expect, and everything comes back. It is not the first time, or the second time, or the third time that we have been told that government has removed subsidies. And after a while, we hear of under recovery, we hear of changes. So there are certain fundamentals in terms of the data that speaks to the subsidies that are not available for public interrogation and proper verification. And a lot of all this needs to change if government and governance must earn the trust of the people.
Okay, wow, there's a lot to this. Well, to help cushion the effect, of the removal, yes, oil marketers are asking federal government to make the Central Bank of Nigeria release the sum of 250 billion naira intervention fund for the National Gas Expansion Program, has loans to vehicle owners to acquire gas conversion kit. What's your take on that?
That was a principle and a policy which had been established over the years, which were never implemented. Unfortunately, those are things that happen with us. Definitely, if that were to happen, and there is a lot of gas sites and gas, it helps us in terms of our ability to meet our emission targets. It definitely will also cushion the effects to the people and reduce the pressure on petrol itself. So definitely, yes, it's a welcome development in terms of a policy. But like everything else, it needs to have a system of monitoring and verification to ensure that the money actually achieves what it is targeted to do. So there needs to be some kind of public monitoring, there needs to be private monitoring, and this is where NGOs need to also bear their fangs and spread their eyes and ensure that what the things we're meant to do is actually achieved. So basically, it is a responsibility of every Nigerian, every single person who lives here, whether full blood or not, to ensure that the proper things that needs to be done as far as subsidy is concerned is actually achieved.
The timing, I talked about it earlier, the timing of this removal, cost of living crisis. And again, when you look at the rate of inflation in the country, it has actually gone up, though it's losing momentum somehow. Then the cost of borrowing again. Are we actually getting this, the timing? Don't you think we need to rethink the timing?
Well, I'm not a political expert, but Politically, in Nigeria, historically, politically, the acceptability, the popularity of every government starts to go down from the day they come into power, no matter how popular they were. So the most controversial decisions can only be made at the beginning. So if we are to look at historical trends, so if they have any chance at removing it, I mean, this is not speaking in terms of what is practical or putting on the heart of those who are in governance at this time. If they have any chance of removing it, that period is the only time that they have the chance. But, like I have said, it is not so much as in removing it, so that they do not go and hit the self-destruct button. There are certain fundamentals that must be in place. The first is that the data on which the removal of the subsidy is premised needs to be made available publicly. It needs to be made verifiable. People must be able to verify it, and it must be consistently available for all the times that the things are imported. And on the strength of that, they can now start the processes and the steps for ensuring the removal.
Social safety nets, I'm afraid, will have to play a big role in this. But they are also proposing to build 30,000 gas stations. How far will that go?
Well, significant, as long as there are cars that can use the gas, because there's no value to a gas station if there are no cars using gas. So basically, yes, across the major cities, across the major plying routes.
And do we have the time? Isn't the times, when you look at it, the time is somehow short. Can that be done in a very short period of time?
No, it can be. It may not be done between now and June, but it will be done at a time, and whenever it is done, it will impact the economy. So sometimes, some of these things, some of the things that we need immediately are things that are only available on the mid-term and long-term basis, even though there's a need now. But that doesn't mean that the fact that it's not made, it can't be made available now, doesn't mean we shouldn't start doing it. So it is all about doing the right things and consistently doing the right things that ultimately gets us to the destination. It doesn't matter whether it's going to be available now, but the fact that somewhere along the line is going to be made available and is going to be of benefit to people, then it should be done.
Well, compressed natural gas emits like 30 to 60% less greenhouse gases than petrol and diesel. Don't you think this is the right time for increased investment in this area?
Well, compressed natural gas is just gas. It's just natural gas, but it's compressed. So to put it in perspective, and this is just speaking to basic chemistry here, gas is affected by two things, or should I say fluids generally. They are affected by two things. They are affected by temperature, they are affected by pressure. If you reduce gas to a temperature, I can't remember now, you liquefy it. So that becomes liquefied natural gas, and that is useful for transporting gas. And that's why most of gas within that area is LNG. But compressed natural gas is just compressed so that it can fire the engine. That's the internal combustion engine, which is in the car. So that's just basic chemistry. I mean, that's just the basic chemistry of what it does and how it functions. Once gas is made available, it will do the job of what gas does. It will reduce, it's significantly lower emissions than petrol. And that is why for Nigeria, gas is our preferred energy or our preferred choice for energy transition. And that is why this decade in Nigeria is called the decade of gas. So investment in anything gas, whether it be infrastructure, AKK, and another infrastructure that should pass from Cross River up to Borno, doing the same gas, needs to be invested. It needs to be done. The truth of the matter is that gas is one of the areas where we can have development, even development. Because with gas infrastructure across all those places, you can have a cottage industry in every local government. So basically, a cottage industry is an industry that uses the raw materials from what is available in that environment. So if they grow oranges in that environment, your cottage industry can be a fruit juice manufacturing company. And with a cottage industry in every local government, we have rural-urban drift being mitigated. Because if you can have a good lifestyle, the lifestyle that you aspire in the cities, in the villages, then you will find out that there's going to be a reduction in that. And then there can be proper development of the rural areas to the extent that it satisfies and meets the needs of people. So we must not miss this opportunity, and we must not take it with levity. Gas offers the potential for even development across the whole of Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Solomon, before I let you go, I would like your thoughts on what role would the Dangote refinery be playing at this time?
Well, Dangote refinery is a private project. I think we must not lose sight of that. In other words, this is a private man building a project. Yes, there is some Nigerian investment into it and all that, but fundamentally, it is a private project.
But logistically, it's very close, you know.
Yeah, I'm using that as a caveat so that people are not too disappointed when things start to happen. The essence of every capitalist investment is to make profit for its shareholders.
Of course.
And of course, to pay back investment. Dangote Refinery has collected billions of dollars in loans. So the first priority is to pay back its loans. The second priority is to ensure that the investors make profit. It is not a developmental project. I think those fundamentals need to be made clear. And Dangote will sell petroleum products at what is profitable for him. It's as simple as that. So that is a reality that Nigerians need to remember when they are expecting and romanticizing the idea that Dangote Refinery is going to be the end of all issues in in the downstream petroleum sector.
Oh, thank you very much, Olabode Sowunmi. It's always a pleasure having you on the program.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Now moving on, yen falls as rates outlook diverges. Let's now see currency. Now, the economic community of West African state has convened more than 100 experts to discuss and draw a roadmap for the utilization of the results in the view of adopting a sustainable management of the fisheries resources for the ECOWAS maritime domain. The meeting tackling improve regional fisheries governance in West Africa is funded by the European Union, while the Food and Agriculture Organization is to provide technical support. Justin Bemoyi reports.
These experts are representatives of the Directors of Fisheries and Aquaculture, Research Institute, Development Partners, non-state actors, European Union, African Union, USAID, and FAO.
The three complementary components of fiscal program
FAO, Institute Agro, and the University of Portsmouth are leading the projects that make up Component 3 of the Improved Regional Fisheries Governance in Western Africa project called PESCAO. Throughout their assignment under PESCAO, they have improved collaboration between fisheries research and fisheries actors, boosting knowledge of fisheries, its data systems, and its management across West Africa. FAO representative said the role and importance that ECOWAS attaches to fisheries development, fisheries management, and the promotion of regional cooperation demonstrates how countries must take a leading role and set narratives in sustainable fisheries governance in West Africa and beyond.
The study of fishery in the ECOWAS region is complex and varies depending on the country and the sub-region. Yet, this vital source of aquatic foods and income for millions of people face enormous pressure and threats of overexploitation, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Poor management practices that cripples our progress towards sustainable fisheries, especially the small-scale fishery sector, the backbone of our fishing community. We must do more.
Under the new financial framework, the European Union continues to be committed and will give oceans and fisheries still a great importance and enhancing the marine and coastal resilience as well.
Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing impacts continue to impact the West Africa region. And under ECOWAS's framework of regional agricultural policy, comprehensive strategic framework for sustainable fisheries and aquaculture development and support from the European Union, FAO, and partners collectively agree that improved regional cooperation is essential to address these issues for effective fisheries governance.
Gold slides after U.S. jobs data raises rate hike bets. Let's see commodities. The Nigerian equities market ended last week on a negative note as market sentiment remained negative. The NGX all-share index closed the week with a loss of 2.28% as against 1.54% loss recorded in the previous week. Let's join Neka Oko for details.
The market opened for 4 trading days last week as the federal government declared Friday 7th April and Monday 10th April 2023 as public holidays to mark the Easter celebration. A total turnover of 1.054 billion shares worth 10 billion naira in 16,155 deals was traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NGX all-share index and market capitalization depreciated by 2.28% to close the week at 52,994.13 and 28.869 trillion naira respectively. Similarly, all other indices finished lower, with the exception of NGX Insurance, which appreciated by 2.19%, while the NGX-SM and NGX Growth indices closed flat. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 630.378 million shares valued at 5.43 billion naira traded in 7,705 deals. The conglomerates industry followed with 248.074 million shares worth 394.37 million naira in 812 deals, while the third place was the oil and gas industry. Trading in the top 3 equities, namely Transnational Corporation plc, UBA, and Fidelity Bank plc, accounted for 498.527 million shares worth 2.11 billion naira in 1,862 deals. A total of 1,804 units of exchange-traded products valued at 755,567 naira were traded in 33 deals, while a total of 26,065 units of federal government bonds valued at 24.86 million naira were traded in 25 deals. 16 equities appreciated in price during the week. 37 equities depreciated in price, while 103 equities remained unchanged.
Thank you, Neka. Business Express returns Tuesday by 9:30 a.m. I am Musa Abubakar. Enjoy your Easter holiday.